Hi everyone, Vegas from Critic here, Jeff K. Howard here to review Colossal, starring Anne Hathaway, Jason Sudeikis, Tim Blake Nelson, and Dan Stevens. Very, very strange premise to this movie. Maybe not the premise, but the execution of the premise. And this was the darling at all the film festivals this year. I think starting at Toronto, where, let's set up the film. Anne Hathaway is a woman who's going through a mental breakdown right now. She lost her job. She has a drinking problem. Her boyfriend is kicking her out of the apartment. She's really hit the lowest point in her life. So where does somebody go to turn to when they're hitting the low part of their life? They return home. So she goes back to her small town and where she grew up, and she meets up with an old, longtime friend since they were in grade school, played by Jason Sudeikis, who runs a bar. So she ends up telling her problems, and of course she works at the bar, good place for an alcoholic, right? And Jason Sudeikis has always had this kind of crush on her, and so he tries to explore his possibilities with her, and also his friends that hang out at the bar, like Tim Blake Nelson. And but you think, okay, up to that point in the movie, it seems pretty normal, you know? Here we have a woman that's going through all these really difficult times in her life, and also it's about relationships and all these, you know, and about, you know, discovering who you are and all these kind of things. But then she finds out that she has some sort of connection to this 100-foot creature that is terrorizing the city of Seoul, Seoul, South Korea. Not North Korea, Seoul, South Korea. And as you're watching this movie, you're trying to think to yourself, is this really happening? So the movie really is kind of like a mystery. It kind of plays with your mind while the whole dramatic thing is going on between her and Jason Sudeikis, and about them getting all their cards on the table, and about confessing all kinds of things about each other, about their lives and the difficulties. They find out they go to this specific place in a park in this hometown at a specific time, and she finds out she has this connection with this creature. It's really strange. So as I'm watching this movie, which comes in about 2 hours long, I'm trying to understand if this is really happening or not, or is this some sort of allegory for alcoholism, for a terrible home life, for broken relationships. They're using these monsters in South Korea to kind of represent, you know, expressing their feelings, maybe in a kind of independent, weird, quirky way that only this director, Nacho Vigalondo, could ever do. So once you kind of just stop trying to figure out if this movie is really happening or not, and you concentrate on the dramatic part of it, which Anne Hathaway and especially Jason Sudeikis turn in these exceptional performances. And I'm not really used to seeing Jason Sudeikis being a jerk. I mean, this guy goes from, you know, being kind of like a friendly guy to where he understands he's not going to get Anne Hathaway. He's not going to get her, and he regrets it, you know, and he has regrets in his life. So this movie is filled with dramatic tension. And meanwhile, I think when the monsters show up, you're just kind of like, it kind of gives you a breather of what's going on in this movie. So it's really different in terms of its execution as a movie about a woman who's, you know, an alcoholic, about broken relationships, about broken dreams, all these things. And they just throw these monsters in there. It's almost kind of like, what's it, A Monster Calls. Remember that movie that came out a few months ago, which was one of the best films of 2016? It's almost on that same kind of level, you know? So I think that is my theory. I'd love to know, you got to see this movie and let me know what you thought, what's going on. Are the monsters real? Is it something more, you know, suggestive, and is it an allegory? So something like that. Overall, the structure of this movie, the pacing of it, and also the story, the acting is just fantastic. It really is. So this is a great independent film that's getting all kinds of buzz and all kinds of attention, not because of the quirky, well, yeah, of course, because of the quirky monsters that are destroying South Korea. And think about the timing of that. The tensions right now with North Korea and China and everything going on over there with Trump administration. It's just kind of, you know, really kind of makes me uneasy that this movie kind of predicted something was going on. Of all the cities in the world, you know, the director uses South Korea, you know, Seoul. So overall, this movie really was not enchanted. It just really fascinated me. It really did, because here we've seen, you know, the same old kind of subject matter, but packaged up in a really independent, really original way. And I don't throw that term out very often, but it is definitely an original execution for some of this material, and it's something you shouldn't miss, because people are going to be talking about this for months to come. Definitely a cult classic. So get out there and see Colossal. Come back and let me know what you thought. Put it in the comments below, because I'm dying to talk about this movie with somebody, what they saw in the movie, with the symbolism? Did it really happen? What's going on in this movie? And I love movies that make you think like this. This is what I call a coffee shop or a coffee movie, where you can go to a Starbucks or a diner afterward and just sit there and talk. Because some of the critics, when we come out of these movies, we stand there in the hallway at the exit of the theater, and we're sitting there debating movies, going back and forth, like Silence, from Martin Scorsese. Some of these movies, not too many, do the critics stop and debate what the meaning of the film was and the structure and all of that. And this is definitely one of those movies. So I'd love to know what you thought of it. So make sure you leave me a comment below. All right, for more reviews and interviews, surf on over to my website at vegasfilmcritic.com. Also, check me out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Also, please subscribe, thumbs up, share, and comment below. I'm Jeffrey Howard in Las Vegas. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you next time.